Hi all, hope you are doing fine. This is Ashutosh from ProdEgyIAS, and today's lecture will be about ethics. There is a very famous saying by Rudyard Kipling that if you can run every unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance, run, my son, and the world will be at your feet. What does this mean? Obviously, it means that when you are aspiring to be something extraordinary, when you are aspiring to have an ambition which is beyond measurable quantities, which cannot be quantified, then obviously you have to put that amount of effort, that level of effort, right, which you cannot actually calculate. This calculated effort is the primary reason that most of us fail to deliver the result we actually wanted to, or to actually acquire the pedestal that we are aspiring for. So one of the biggest irony, one of the biggest dilemmas of this preparation is that we quantify things, everything. We want to know how many questions we need to do to qualify something. We want to know how many hours we need to study. We want to quantify that how many books we need to read. Okay, that is not how this process is to be understood. And obviously it takes a lot of years until we come to this understanding that the preparation was not about all this. It was more easy, it was more simple, it was less complicated. It was not, or it did not require so much of documentation, right? Obviously, before you become a bureaucrat, you bureaucratize your preparation. Everything that you are doing, right, becomes a kind of documentary revolution. So you keep amassing a lot of books and contents and ideas and influences and inferences and impacts and motivation and whatever. So kindly simplify your understanding. Because of the problem that the education system has, that generally it stresses or it focuses mostly on the rote learning, right? 2 to the 4, 2 3 to the 6, 2 5 to 10. So that obviously that process goes on and on. And UPSC preparation cannot be detached from the kind of education system we have. Though the requirement of this exam is very different, but the process of learning is the same, right? So we want to create a disruption in that, right? That is the idea with which we have initiated most of our programs. And a lot of attention and goodwill of the students have been well received. In this context, the purpose of studying ethics, that is paper 4 of general studies, fits into the entire idea, right, of unstructured or deconstructed learning that we follow. I hope many of you might be knowing the concept of deconstructed learning. I don't know how many of you might have heard this term, but I think many of you, right, might be used to that, even if you don't know that what it is called. For example, when you are memorizing certain things, formula, right, you try to follow or form mnemonic codes. If you're trying to remember certain facts in GK or general studies, you try to link that to certain things around you. Why do you do that? So knowingly or unknowingly, what do? You deconstruct your learning, because your constructive learning or the constructed learning, stereotyped, right, that is based mostly on pen and paper. So they have a format, right? School education, university education, they have a format. UPSC learning is filled with a lot of uncertainties. It is filled with a lot of unstructured, non-structured, non-designed content. And this is where the problem comes, because most of the coachings, most of the classes, most of the aspirants, everyone is trying to structure it, right, into a format. Current affairs related to polity, economy, society, governance, this current affairs, right? Number of PPTs related to this, right? Number of pointers related to answer, correct? But don't you think ever that these pointers, these content, right? It is obviously a product, a consequence of a human being. People like you who are learning, who are developing, who are creating that knowledge. Obviously, they would have taken a lot of time to do that, right? But as far as exam is concerned, do we require that much of time? We don't require that much of time. We are not going to be the researchers. So obviously, we have to find out a way, a means, a mechanism by which we can obviously streamline that preparation. So we'll talk about this idea, right? Ethics paper, what it is all about. It is not just about definitions, not about theories and philosophies. It is something that we do, that we think of every day in our lives. Did my friend do something good to me? Why is that person my enemy and not a friend? What should I expect from my friends in return of what I am doing? Why my parents are scolding me? Am I or have I been able to contribute to my parents' life? Are my brothers and sisters close to me? If not, why it is so? Should I trust, respect, follow my neighbors? Should I respect my family members, my kith and kin, right? Should I trust the government? Whatever government is doing, is it right? So these are a lot of questions that we ask every day. When we ask these questions, obviously, our purpose is to know what is correct, what is right, what I am thinking, right? What exactly is the answer to that? Am I having the capability to know about it? That is also one very important aspect that most of you miss. Am I capable of even finding out what I'm doing, what they are doing, what somebody else is doing? Is it right or wrong? Most of the people, most of us perceive right and wrong in terms of how beneficial it is for us. If something is beneficial for us, we find it lucrative, we find it ethical, moral for us. If something doesn't suit us, something doesn't benefit us, then probably we don't find it to be relevant to us. Probably our evaluation, it doesn't come into evaluation. It is more of a neutral perspective. So if government is taking up health policies, but I earn money enough and I have a health insurance, I'm not bothered about it. But yes, as a concerned citizen, as an educated person, I should be conscious of the policies of the government, but I'm not bothered. Because ultimately, that doesn't affect me directly. So ethical and moral evaluation people do based on their own benefits, good or bad for them. So you can say there is a lot of individual perspective related to what is good, what is bad. Ethics obviously is the study of that. So you're going to, or you're going for, let us say, a road trip, and you end up into a particular hill station where you need to buy certain things, utilities, and you overpay, or you are overcharged and you're forced to pay because there is no other shop available and you have to buy those things, right? Now you feel bad about it. But the person who is overcharging it tells you the reason that, okay, you do not have transportation, there is no logistic support here, and that is why I have to get these things from very far, and I invest a lot of money in that, and that is why I'm overcharging. Now both of you have your own perception regarding what is being done, what the shopkeeper is doing. Shopkeeper has a view what customer is trying to say. Right? Both of you don't have a grudge against each other. It's not a grudge, right? You think the rational, logical answer must be that this person must not misuse the opportunity, must not take the avsar out of the apada, right? You should not make this as an opportunism. On the other hand, you think that, or the shopkeeper thinks that this person is getting these utilities at such a place, in such a regional area, right, in such a location, and still he is not grateful for that. Now see, every day we encounter such situations in our lives. And what do we do? What do we do? In some, we react. In some, we act. And in some, we don't do anything. In fact, majority of us don't do anything. So ethics is an area of study which helps us understand our own actions with respect to the individuals, communities, organizations that are around us. That is the idea of ethics. When the term is used in terms of ethics in governance, right, that becomes more specific. So we'll talk about that thing today, right? Obviously, we are coming with this as an information, right? You can access the app or website and you'll get a lot of information related to this. So 1st July onwards, we are starting with this course for ethics, right? Which will be equally beneficial to those who are writing mains and those who will be writing mains later. It will not be a very huge course, right? It doesn't require that much of time also. That's the beauty of this area to be studied. And especially people who have little administrative background or who have more political science education or sociology education, or for that matter, in general management education, they can know things much more easily. Others obviously also can understand it, right? Provided they take it as a competitive preparation, but not just as an information gathering exercise. If they just focus only on information, then that will be a problem. So we'll talk about what is ethics, right? In fact, the study of ethics is divided into two parts. One is the theoretical study, the other is the applied study. The theoretical study obviously focuses on understanding the description of ethics, right? So let me just clarify to you, right? I will use a kind of quadrant. Ethics in governance is the prime focus of study, right? But let's not just make it governance. It is a general study also of ethics. So ethics in governance, right? And as you say, ethics, integrity, right? And aptitude. So most of you will pick up a book, pick up this syllabus, look at the past year question papers. You try to find out the content, obviously. That is how the method should be used. But this method has a lot of flaws. What is the biggest flaw? Is that you are getting initiated into the subject, right? Without even comprehending the scope of the subject. You're trying to treat this subject, right, as some quantitative information learning which can be done by looking just at the syllabus and acquiring the information related to the syllabus. You have not understood the basic idea behind this subject. Right? Globally, throughout the world, obviously there have been several initiatives taken to bring or to promote anti-corruption movements within the government. As you know, there is an international agency called Transparency International, which is Berlin-based, a kind of NGO, you can say, right? It's a civil society organization which seeks reports from more than 50 organizations, government, non-government, and likewise seeks reports from various organizations. And based on these reports, it publishes a report called index called the Corruption Perception Index. So Transparency International right? An international civil society organization publishes a report, Corruption Perception Index. And you know, majority of the time in the several years, right? These Nordic countries right? Nordic countries, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Luxembourg, even you can take Sweden and certain countries, right, which have been very high ranking, right? In fact, top ranking in the corruption perception index. That means they are least corrupt nations of the world. Scandinavian countries, most of them. So why it is so? That should raise some curiosity within you, that how come these countries have such low level of corruption? And is CPI an exact measurement of corruption? No. Fine. That's not an exact measurement of corruption, but it is a measurement of perception of corruption. What is perception of corruption? How corrupt people view their governments. How corrupt people view their institutions to be. That is the biggest issue, right? So these reports are published, and likewise, United Nations Framework Convention Against Corruption, 2000-2002. Right now, India also became a signatory. And likewise, when you think of global practices, right? Douglas report, Justice Douglas report in US. And likewise, there are so many reports throughout the world. In India also, Santram Committee report, Vohra Committee report, second ARC report, first ARC report. See? So you have, right, several committees. Santram, 1963-64, right? Then Vohra, 1993, right? And likewise, second ARC, 2005, and many other committees, right? There are a lot of committees formed in various states also, central government also, international level also, and these committees duly highlighted the need for a strong anti-corruption measures within the government. Government roughly was one of the most corrupt organizations throughout the world, and obviously citizens cannot do anything about it. So that became a very conscious issue globally, right? For reformers, for scholars, for theorists, right? For people, political scientists, for civil society organizations, for administrative scholars, it became a very important issue, that how are we going to overcome this? So what we can do, sensitize people. An average, a common person would not like to be taught ethics. Most of the people you meet in India and you tell them, see, this is not the way to throw the garbage on the road. This is not how you should drive. You should not break the red light. You should not, take a wrong turn. You should not go in one way, right? People will not listen to you. And this is not a syndrome in India, it's visible everywhere in the world. Civil society, peer pressure, community member to community member, citizen to citizen, right? Hardly there is lack of any collective spirit. Hardly there is any collective spirit, There is most of the time lack of collective spirit. So considering that background, considering the apathy of citizens and of the organizations and the governments towards the citizens, right, which was creating a global problem of governance. This is a global problem of governance. If you imagine there is a country which is corrupt and which is harboring terrorists, a country which is funding terrorists, you know which countries are, right? An entire or numerous nations together, right? They are getting into a nuclear warfare. They initiate something called Third World War, right? Or they start a global war on economic war, trade war, biological war. What exactly is going to happen? So that is the biggest issue, which required attention of most of the nations. And so United Nations or United Nations Development Program or WTO, World Bank, IMF, many other multilateral institutions, they obviously understood the importance of bringing this to the center stage. And that was the idea behind the emergence of the concept of governance. So in that context comes the importance of this study. Most of the third world countries, developing countries, or most of the countries of the world obviously have governments. And every government has an administration which it uses to perform its tasks. Now imagine if government is the main actor, it is the main system which is performing most of the functions. Your ration card, your Aadhaar card, your passport, your driving license, right? Your many small to small utilities are being delivered or at least controlled by the government. Then who needs to be reformed? The administration. Because it is the administration which is doing it. So the idea was that do we need to bring or do we need to focus the ethical study, ethical understanding or ethical framework to be imposed on public services across the globe, right? And in that context, second ARC comes with these recommendations, right, of including a paper of ethics. At least that will create consciousness. And obviously it will not make you ethical, you know, right, how ethical the bureaucrats have been in India. Right? A majority or a whopping 27% of the corruption, right, of the corruption is through the leakage, in implementation, right? Whopping somewhere 20, right? Imagine 27%. What has happened to Narega? What has been the problem with Panchayati Raj institutions? How democratic decentralization suffered? How the administration dominated the local governments? How administrative corruption increased at the lower level? How politics and administration became co-partners in corruption, right? Right? Tu bhi aa, main bhi aun, right? So that kind of corruption, you know, right? So, fine. So the way you tell your friends, "Main bhi yahan pe hu, come, and we are waiting for you." Same way here the corruption acts, right? "Main bhi hu corrupt, jaldi aa," right? So we all will work together. So this idea of corruption and corruption having multiple dimensions today, corruption emerging as one of the biggest threats to good governance, to a society to be governed properly, for a society to function, right, in a respectable, efficient, citizen-friendly manner. And that is where the study of ethics comes into picture. So if you understand that this is the reason why we are studying it, and there is obviously a very elaborate understanding of why we are studying it, then obviously see your orientation, your judgmental nature regarding this paper will vanish. The opinions that you have formed that, okay, case study should be studied in this particular format, right? I'll be able to get marks. You see, average scoring in this paper also is not above 95, 96, 75 tak. Though it is a paper where you can score 140, 150 easily. Because it is your paper. It is not a paper which somebody will give you this content and say, oh, go and write. This is what you have to mug up and write. See, it is a paper which gives you a lot of creative liberty. Obviously not illogical, right? It has to be based on some logic and rationality. The more well-read you are, the more understanding you are regarding the human nature, regarding the social structure, regarding the functioning of the governments and government-citizen relationship, the global issues. If you're more aware of these things and you have the ability to form certain independent opinions, not biased opinions, independent opinions, that is to say neutral opinions, you can do very well in this paper. And this is exactly what we are going to do. That is what our target is. We are not going to tell you that, okay, this is what aptitude means. We'll tell you, right? That doesn't mean we'll not tell you. But we are not going to start off saying, okay, there are 4 parts of the ethics. There are 3 divisions of the ethics. This is what the ethics mean. So that is not how we need to learn. We need to be practical right from the beginning. So when you say aptitude, attitude, philosophies, value systems, normative understanding of ethics, everything can be understood with a very practical, very logical, right? And in fact, you can say with a very commonsensical mindset. So when you look at the paper, right, you can simplify the understanding of the entire paper into 2 broad parameters, right? 2 broad focus. So one part of the focus, this is what is understanding. Right? Understanding means you have to empathize. If there is corruption, right? If there are values, if we talk about Aristotle, we talk about Gandhi, we talk about various other scholars, Socrates, or Machiavelli, or Plato, right? Heidegger, whatever, right? We obviously don't need to talk about all of them, but even if we talk about them, right? You need to have an understanding of exactly, or Kant, right? We need to exactly understand them, right? When you empathize them. When you really realize that, okay, exactly what is this person trying to say? Do I have to just mug up those terms which they are saying, or I need to commonsensically understand them? So as you commonsensically understand them, then it makes a big difference. And how this can be applied. So one part is understanding, other part is application. Now, if you want, you can broadly divide this into theoretical study, and one is related to your case study. Right? So in theoretical study, you divide it into general study or general theoretical study, and one related to administrative theory. So this will be more related to general theoretical understanding, one will be related to administrative theory. Right? Obviously, case study also can be understood at various levels, right? Mostly at individual, right? Collective or social, let's say, and other is more administrative. Right? So there are a lot of emotions, personal aspect involved here, right? Social aspect involved here, and here more formal legal aspects are involved. What law says. What human emotions, right? What are the individual psychological behaviors that make people do certain things they want to, right? How people react or act in a social situation, where your actions cannot be just guided by you, right? They will be more of a reaction to what others are doing, see? So if you are understanding this, and then you make a good use of case study, use various resources, whether you say newspaper, or you say government cases, or you can use various judicial judgments, or you can use various other reports submitted by the government, departmental procedures, departmental proceedings, various kinds of other, inquiries or, punishments which the government has meted out to its various civil servants, or various modifications in the civil services rules. When you now understand that in the background which we have talked about, then only exactly this paper will make sense to you. And it is quite possible that you can, with a good background, obviously, like having a public administration or political science, or for that matter, sociological understanding, right, or more law-based understanding. So if you have that, right, this is what minimum you can score, and you can go up to, right, this will be a very big change in your overall score and your potential to qualify the exam. So even if you're scoring certain marks low in the other areas, especially paper 3 where the scoring is less, you can increase that scoring here. The moment you start scoring here higher, right, automatically your score in the essay may also increase, right? I'm using the word, stressing on the word may. It is not just it will increase, it may. Because now when you understand, when you develop this kind of broad understanding, right, your writing skill, your expression, your various dimensions, or your various perspectives related to a particular topic or issue, right, it enhances. Right? So you have statements, you have, theoretical knowledge, you have conceptual understanding, you have information, you have examples, you have case studies, you have various kind of new perspectives around something, right? You have your own opinion. Now, if you just mix all that, right, and put that tadka of common sense, so automatically you are going to write very good essay. Essay and ethics paper are to be understood in tandem because they are designed that way. They are not designed for you to just memorize certain information, certain worksheets, certain case studies, ratify and go and write exactly what was written in your practice paper. That is not how it works. Yes, you can develop methodology, practice it, right? Reform it the moment exam wants you to do. So thank you so much for watching. In the next lecture, we'll be coming with the detailed understanding of the syllabus of ethics. Keep tuned into us, keep watching, right? And all the best to you. Thank you so much for your time.